Our final head coach today is Michigan State's Mark Dantonio of the Legends Division. Dantonio enters his 5th season with the Spartans after leading his team to its first Big Ten championship since 1990. Dantonio and the Spartans earned a school record 11 wins and an appearance in the Capital One Bowl. Michigan State welcomes back 14 starters this season, including 7 on offense. You go ahead with an opening statement.
Thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure again to be back here in Chicago. 2010 was a very exciting year for us, and I think we took a big step as a program moving in the direction that we want to go, culminating in a championship-type season. With that being said, 2011 brings many more challenges for us as we look to continue to gain respect here in the Big Ten Conference. Offensively, when you look at our football team, just very quickly, when you look at our football team, I think you always have to start, first of all, with the quarterback position. Provides a lot of leadership for us. He's a guy that Kirk Cousins is a young man that not only is an outstanding football player on the field, but he brings a sense of calm, a sense of confidence to our football team. He's got great game management skills. Maybe more importantly than that, he has great locker room management. So we've got great team chemistry, I think, in our locker room right now, and that's where it starts for us. Offensively, we have our running backs back. We have 3 of our top 4 wide receivers back: Keith Nickel, Keyshawn Martin, and B.J. Cunningham, who's 10 catches away from being the all-time leading receiver at Michigan State University. Our tight end position is strong. Offensive line, we're inexperienced but very athletic, and we'll look to build on those things as we move through our non-conference schedule. Defensively, we're a young football team there. We've got 2 seniors in our top 22 players. But I do think we bring a blend of experience there. Jarrell Worthy sort of anchors our defensive line, but we have a lot of experience up there, and we have numbers. Our linebacker position, we're going to miss Greg Jones, Eric Gordon, certainly, but we've got, I think, very, very good players coming back, and we won't lose one player, all our underclassmen, so very exciting with Max Bulla and some of the other young men, Chris Norman, who sat out this spring but should be an outstanding player, and some of the other guys, Danicos Allen, very good player as well. Secondary should be solid as well. Special teams, where we've won, I think, in the past 4 years, a lot of football games, will remain solid with what we do, but also our kicker returns Dan Conroy, who had an outstanding season, and then along with him, Mike Sadler is a young freshman, redshirted freshman, who made the decision to come to Michigan State a couple years ago and sit 1 year, but tremendous talent, outstanding leg, and very poised as well. So we're looking forward to 2011. I think when you look at us as a football team, obviously we need to stay healthy. So health is a big concern always. But we have experience, and I think we have a good mindset, and we have the leadership intact. Our staff remains intact with the exception of Don Treadwell, who went on to Miami of Ohio, but we wish him the best. But staff is very strong, and we're poised and confident. So I'll take some questions.
Go ahead and put your hands up if you have questions, and we'll get a microphone over to you. Our first one down here on the stage right.
Coach, an 11-win season last year obviously gives your program a lot to be proud of, but given the fact that did not result in a BCS berth, to what extent does that serve as fuel and motivation for your squad this year?
Well, I think what we've talked to our football team about really is that we've climbed one mountain, and you think you're getting to the top of the mountain, you find out there's another mountain there to climb as well. So when you look at our football team and how we performed in the bowl game, we took a step backward. So our focus is on what we can do to improve the situation and what we can do. So we got to take out of the context. We got to take out the BCS and what's going on in terms and just focus on ourselves, I think, as a program. Deal with what we can control. Some of the things are out of control. I think that the championship game in this conference will be very, very exciting for everybody, and I think that'll propel that particular team onward, and that'll sort of settle all the problems that were involved last year. I think it was a unique season with 3 teams really being in the top 10 for a long period of time in the BCS, the top 10. So, hey, we got left out there, but we can control our own destiny. If we were to play better in the bowl game, I think I could answer that a little bit better, but it is what it is.
We'll keep it down here in the front row.
Coach, I want to ask you about the divisional setup in the Big Ten. This is something new for a lot of the coaches here in the Big Ten, and just the Legends division in particular. It looks like you've got several schools with great football tradition in there, going to be great rivalries week in and week out in that division alone without even the crossover games with Michigan, Nebraska, Michigan State, Iowa, those 4 schools, Northwestern, Minnesota. Just your thoughts about the divisional setup and the makeup of that Legends division.
Well, first of all, with Nebraska coming into the conference, I think it gives us the conference as a whole. It strengthens our brand, I think, as a conference. So then you split up the two conferences, and I think that there's some pretty good football teams in that other ones too. Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin. So I think the thing you learn about this conference is that it's very, very competitive as you move forward. And as far as the Legends side of it, we know that we'll have to play on the road at times. We're going to have to compete and win that conference. That'll be our focus, but we're excited about it. We've decided that we'll embrace all different things that we deal with in our program, and this will be one of the things that will continue to strengthen us. Even now, as we sit here and say this, recruits nationally continue to call, whether it's our football team or another football team, and because of the conference setup, the structure, it strengthens our recruiting, and it'll only make us a better program.
Next question is here in the back on stage right.
Coach, you mentioned the chemistry and the leadership from last year's team that sort of carried over. How much did that help in winning all the close games that you did last year, and then how helpful could that be potentially with all the tough road games you have this year in a pretty tough schedule?
Well, it should certainly make a difference. It did last year. When you look at our football team, you've got to get breaks in close games. That's obvious. Make great decisions as players and as coaches, but I think you've got to be able to handle adversity as you move through every single game, and that's leadership, and that's chemistry. We had that last year. That still exists on our football team and in our locker room, and I think that's a strength. When you talk about Michigan State right now, and we've got some very good players coming back, but if you had to ask me what was the strength of our team last year, what's the strength of our team this year, right now it's the chemistry as a group of people and a belief as a group of people that propels us.
Next question is stage left, all the way in the corner.
Mark, it's tough to build a perfect college football team, and to do it in 5 years isn't easy. You had a significant rebuilding program. But if it seems as though Michigan State's heritage is a physical football team, a real defensively punishing football team, has been one step here that hasn't quite been perhaps fully achieved. In the same way, if you've had difficulties in recent years with an Iowa or with perhaps an upcoming game against Nebraska or Ohio State or whatever the case might be, it tended to be on that physical level. Is that yet, in your mind, a fair critique, and are you closer to achieving that?
I think it is. Every time we've lost a game, when I talk about lost a game, I mean lost it decisively, which has not been very often, maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the time in these 4 years. It's because we've not won the game up front. And I always just tell it the way it is, so no reason to change right now. So that's what we talk about when we talk to our football team after we've gone through that. We've got to win up front. It starts on the defensive side of the ball. We've got to be able to stop the run and affect the quarterback if we're going to be successful on a consistent basis. That'll always lead to turnovers. On the offensive side of the ball, we've got to limit our turnovers, and we have to have the ability to run the ball to be able to be multidimensional. And those two things, when we have lost to Iowa, couldn't run it. And when we've lost to Ohio State, we couldn't run it. And when we lost to Alabama, couldn't run it. And so those 3 scenarios played into it, and whether it's 2008 or whether it was 2011. And that really is a difference maker. I mean, I think that you have to do those things to take that next step, which is that next mountain that I'm talking about. But when you look at our football team right now, maybe this is the first time since I've been there that I can point to and say, defensively up front, solid. Jarrell Worthy anchors that. Should be a phenomenal player, quick twitch guy. But you build around him Rashad White, Golston. Tyler Hoover's up to 290 pounds. We've got physical guys that can play that level up front now. Our linebackers are a little bit more inexperienced, as I've said, offensively inexperienced, but we've moved some players over. We have numbers on the offensive line, and we have more guys that bench press 400-plus pounds and vertical jump 30 inches than we've ever had across the board. And all they need is experience. They're extremely athletic, and I think good things are going to happen there. You combine that with an outstanding group of running backs and the ability to throw the football as we continue to do, and I think you have an offense that can be very, very good.
Next question's over here, stage right.
Coach, there's going to be a few new starters breaking in in the offensive line group. Tell us what you expect out of that position group.
Well, we lose 3 guys from last year's football team. We moved Blake Treadwell over there and Dan France over there. Dan France right now is a left tackle. Blake is battling the center position, offensive guard, but he's an outstanding athlete. Travis Jackson, outstanding athlete, is at center as well. Chris McDonald's a guy that came in here at 265 pounds and ran a 51 quarter. Now he's 300-plus pounds. Joe Foreman anchors the offensive line. He'll be a 4-year starter now for the first time at Michigan State, a 4-year starter on the offensive line since, I believe, 1988 when Mandridge did it. So we're sort of set. Skylar Berkland, who used to be Schaffner, is an outstanding player in his own right. We've got athletic guys up front. I can go on and name all the rest of them, but we've got some athletic guys up front. What we need to find is a blend of experience. That's why we play our first 4 games. That's why we come in August. But I have a great sense I have a good sense that we'll be just fine on the offensive line, that we can make it work, and that we'll be very, very good. That's where I'm at with it. But again, games will define us, and we'll have to see where we're at as we move forward.
Next question is stage left in the middle.
Coach, you talked about your outstanding running back trio. Do you see Larry Caper or Le'Veon Bell getting more shares of the carries than last year?
Well, last year, as we went into the season, they were all pretty much equal. Edwin and Larry were pretty much equal. Le'Veon was just coming into it, and Nick Hill, a true freshman, was just coming into the mix as well. But Larry Caper fractured his hand. Edwin took off, never looked back. Le'Veon had a great first half of the season. So it really, as good as Edwin is, all 4 of those guys are very good. So to me, health remains the biggest thing. You've got to stay healthy and be able to push your way through the off season and then through the non-conference games. But obviously, Edwin Baker is a phenomenal player, but I think the other guys are very, very good as well. And I could see them having breakout years. And if you look at 2009, Larry Caper was the featured guy. So all guys have the ability there, and that's what makes us, I think, strong in that area. We have depth.
All right, time for 2 more. We've got one over here in the middle, stage right.
With Jarrell Worthy on the defensive line and the draft projections he started to receive there, just kind of looking ahead, how much can that sort of thing help in terms of recruiting when you start to generate that buzz around players in the NFL draft, like guys like Edwin Baker and Johnny Adams as well?
Well, we don't want those guys to leave, obviously, okay, but I think it helps recruiting when you see young people that are having success and being recognized a year before they would be a senior. So my message to our players are, hey, if you play well and you're good enough to go, and that's what you want to do, and it benefits your life, that's what you should do. And I'm happy for them and happy to help. But at the same time, if we're talking about that, if Jarrell's going to be a top 15 pick, then we'll be just fine on the defensive line, and we'll win a lot of football games like Lynn suggested over there. So I'm good to go.
Final question down here front in the aisle.
Mark, you've obviously been close to Jim Tressel throughout your career, and I'm assuming you've had a chance to talk with him. I'm just wondering your reaction of everything that he's gone through for the last few months.
Well, it's very heart-wrenching for me and my family because we're close to Coach Tress, and he's had a lot to do with my life as a mentor, really since 1983, and that's a long time. So that's a tough situation, but as I've mentioned out there, he's done a lot of good for college football. Every person that he's come in contact with as a player and as a coach, he's made a positive impact on their lives. And to me, it's tragic, and he becomes a tragic hero in my respect, in my view. And usually tragic heroes have the ability to rise above it all in the end, and that's what I'll look for in the end.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, guys.